Video is going to show you how to put together your sub-assemblies for the hydro arm. So I'm going to go ahead and start through those. I'm going to go to assembly. Going to open up a brand new assembly file. My assembly file opens up. I'm going to go to place. I'm going to start placing my parts. Okay, I'm going to start with the sub-base assembly first. I'm going to look at the picture and notice what is everything connected to. Everything's connected to part 10. So part 10 is going to go out. That's going to be my base part. Okay, it's going to follow my mouse around. I'm going to set one of them down. I don't want to set another one down. I'm going to hit escape. I'm going to hit place. I'm going to go ahead and drag out a bunch of parts here. Part 6 goes with this also, the gusset. Okay, I'm going to drag out some more parts as well. Part 15. Now this works for me, dragging all these parts out now. And then just dealing with them on my screen. If you don't want to, you don't have to. You can assemble them one by one if you would like. However you want to do it. These are all the parts that you're going to need for the sub-base assembly. Okay, then I'm just going to go ahead and putting them together. Going to go to constrain. First thing is I'm going to start with this base and the gusset. Okay, what do I want touching? Okay, I have my mate and my flush command. Let's do using those. I'm going to mate that end to that end. Apply. Flush the bottom to the bottom. Apply. Flush the end to the end. Apply. Notice how on my part, move these out of the way. Notice that on my part there's a longer end of the gusset, so that will go along the bottom of my part 10. Okay, move this back. Just a reminder that I'm using shift and clicking down on my mouse wheel to free rotate my part instead of clicking on it anywhere else. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and set this part in there. Constrain. I want that to be touching that. Apply. I'm going to go ahead and hit escape, drag my part out so that I can get to where I need to. I'm going to go constrain the front of that to the front of that. Apply. Then I'm going to rotate it down. Flush the bottom to the bottom, apply. Okay. Then the last one, I need to put this on there. Okay. I'm going to mate the bottom of my cube to the top of part 10. Apply. Then, leaving it on mate command, I want the center line of that to be touching the center line of that. Apply. Okay. That is how you do your sub-base assembly. I'm going to start the yoke base assembly now. I'm going to go to place, bring out my first part, which is number 14. That's going to be my base part that everything's connected to. Set one of those out. Okay, I'm going to hit escape so that I can bring out my next part. Bring out part number 13. Now, you should have a 13A and a 13B. One that has a hole and one that does not. I don't. So, do as I say, not as I do. I have the same part 13 just with the hole in the back. So, yeah. So, I'm going to go ahead and I want the hole of the far one to be facing the other direction. To rotate a part by itself and not rotating the entire thing like this, I'm going to click on the part first. I'm going to go up here to free rotate, and then I can rotate just that one part. Now I'm just going to spin that part around a little bit so that it is done, and I'm going to hit right click and hit OK so that it stays in that direction. Constrain the inside to the inside, apply. Then I'm just flushing the whole thing back up. Flush the back to the back, apply. And then flush the bottom to the bottom, apply. Same process on this one. Inside to inside. Flush bottom to bottom, apply. And then flush back to back, apply. Okay, now I have my part on there. I need to go ahead and bring out my dowel posts. Place. Part number 2 is my first one. Bring that out. And I'm going to go ahead and bring out the other one which is part 3 as well. We'll set that to the side. So I'm going to start with part number 2. Constrain. To constrain a cylinder or a post or a pole or whatever you want to call it, peg, anything, we are going to use a different type of constraint called insert. I could use the make constraint and I could line up the center lines and do all that, but it's going to be a little easier if I use the insert command. So I'm going to go to insert. Okay, don't worry too much about this right away. You'll figure it out if it's the right one or not, and I'll show you what that is. So I click on the first one. I want that top surface. You notice how the top is circular and it is red highlighted. It has the arrow pointing away from it. I want that surface to be touching that surface. Now it's going to be upside down. That's fine. I'm going to flip this to aligned and it will be exactly how I want it to be. Hit apply and that one's sealed in. Same way with the other one. I want the end of that to be touching, and notice I don't even have to rotate my part. I can just hover it over that area and it will find the back of that hole. Okay, now that's backwards, so I'm going to flip it back to what it was, hit apply, and then that is my yoke base assembly. My final sub-assembly is the arm assembly. So I'm going to go to place. This one's going to be a little bit different how we're doing. I'm going to start with number 17. Okay, I'm going to bring out number 17 out there, set it down, leave it. I'm going to go back to place. I'm going to find my claw. I'm going to bring my claw out. Now, it'll be different for you on how yours is set up, depending if your wrist block's facing a different direction or if your claw's facing another direction. So right now, as I'm looking at it, my claw's upside down and my wrist block's pointing the wrong way for me. So I'm going to go ahead and fix those real quick. Just general direction is all I'm going for. Same way with the wrist block, I want it to be over here, but I need it to be spun around. Doesn't have to be perfect, just has to be somewhere in that general direction. Okay, constrain. I want the top of that thing to be touching the inside of that part. Apply. Hit my home button so I can see what I'm looking at. Okay, the next thing is it still moves. I want the holes to be lined up. Constrain. Center line of that hole to the center line of this hole. Apply. Now, because of the drawing that I gave you, your wrist block and everything is a very, 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 very minute difference between them. Okay, I made that to make it easier to draw. So you will not be able to constrain both of them. You will only be able to constrain one. So once you get these both in their own spot, you are going to come over to your browser bar, you're going to right click, and you're going to hit grounded on both of them so that neither of these parts can move. Okay. Now the next thing, place. I'm going to go ahead and bring out part number 1. Same thing like what I did before, constrain the end. I'm going to switch it to insert, switch the end of that post to the back of that hole, apply. Okay, my arm's starting to take shape now. Cancel out, go to place, go to number 12. That's my next part at the very end. I'm going to go constrain, insert the end of that pole to the back of the drill hole, apply. Okay, these should still move. That's okay, not a big deal. Your next one, place, part number 11, bringing that out. Okay, then I'm going to go on here, constrain the center line of the whole post to the center line of the smaller hole, apply. Then I'm going to do something a little different. I want to constrain the end of that to the back of that wrist block. Now, I don't really want it touching the back of it. I actually want it moved off. And in your binder, somewhere buried in that assembly, it says that you need to move that thing offset. It moves back about 1/2 inch. So 0.5 is what I'm going to put in there. You can do it 2 ways. some of yours will be 0.5. Some of yours will need to be negative 0.5. Mine just happens to be a positive number. There's no kind of rhyme or reason about how you did that. You can do that and just set them on there, hit apply, and it will always hold it at that ½ inch mark. Okay, so that's there. Have that. It will move. That's okay. Not a problem. I'm going to go ahead and hit place. I have 2 more parts to put in, and that's part number 5. I need 2 of them because they're the pegs that are going to hold that hand on or the arm on. Okay, insert the top of the post to the top of that. It's facing the wrong way. Gonna flip it, hit apply. Same thing again. And it was already pointed the right direction there. Hit apply. Now you can see why I don't really want you to have everything the same color, because everything kind of blends together and you're not really sure what thing is what. But this is the arm assembly nonetheless. The final assembly. Final assembly of the hydro arm, you're bringing all of those sub-assemblies together and putting them together on the base plate. So we're going to go ahead and start that. Need to go ahead, find your base plate first. Okay, should be part number 8. Bring that out. Okay, I'm going to go to place. I'm going to find those sub-assemblies that I've been saving over time. Okay, saved them all the same. I'm going to go ahead and bring out my sub-base assembly first. Set it on there. Now, however you start on here doesn't matter, but it will matter after you set the sub-base down. I'm going to go ahead and I want this surface here. Well, first off, I'm going to put it on the plate, so the bottom of the sub-base constrained to the top of the platform. Apply. Now, I want mine to be turned because that's the way it looks in the paper and that's how I want it to be. So I want to go ahead and I'm going to flush this end with the back side back here. Now, I'm going to tell you this now because when you flip the page you'll see that, but you want this offset to be 3 inches off the back corner. So I'm just going to type in 3 into my offset, hit apply, and it will hold it there. Now, I do want the sub base pushed back, so I want to flush the back of the sub base to the back of the part, hit apply, and now my sub base is stuck on there. My next one, place, is going to be my yoke base assembly. I'm going to bring that out. Okay, this one I'm going to go constrain. It's very easy, constraining the bottom of this post, use insert, to the very bottom hole of there. Now you can see there's multiple hole ends. You want the very bottom one. That's upside down. I'm going to flip it over. I'm going to hit apply. My next one is my yoke base assembly, or I'm sorry, my arm assembly. Hit open. I'm going to bring my arm out. Mine's really colorful. This is one I made way before. This isn't the normal one that I use. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to just take this one, go constrain. I want to use the center line of this whole thing. I want to match that up with the center line of one of these holes. Okay, notice it will go into the part. That's okay for right now. So I'm going to hit apply. Then I'm going to constrain the side of this to the side it's going to be touching inside of there. Hit apply. Now I'm going to hit my home button. My arm moves just how it should. Now at this point, before I get too invested in it, I'm going to right click on the base and I'm going to go ahead and hit grounded so that it doesn't move, and I can move my arm and everything will move with it. Okay, all this stuff moves. Now I got 2 more parts to put onto it still. I need to go ahead and go on to place. I am going to go and find my actuator base, which is part number 16. I click on that. I'm going to bring out part 16. I'm going to go constrain, flip it over the bottom of that to the top of the base, apply. Then I need to just flush it up. And again, there are some constraints, some offsets that you need to put on here that you don't know about yet, but they're on the next page. I need to flush it to the center, or to the side. It needs to be 1 inch in the center of the plate. Again, you may need to go negative here if yours doesn't move the right direction. Hit apply. Then I also want to flush it up to the front. It needs to go back 2.70. Okay, if it doesn't, again, negative if it needs to. Hit apply. Then I need to bring out my next part, which is on the very other end. So I go place. I'm going to find that part in here. There it is, number 7. I'm going to bring that out. Constrain. The end of that touching the front of that plate. Don't be afraid to zoom in on some of these things, and if it goes away, just zoom back out. Hit apply. I'm going to flush the bottom to the bottom, apply, and now I have another one of those little offsets that I need to do. I'm going to flush the side of that to the side of that, and I'm going to go ahead and offset that in 2.5 inches. Hit apply. Okay. Hit my home button. Notice that everything moves how it needs to. Okay. This is a finished hydro arm. Hope this helps.